again, everyone. Welcome to
Hi.
another Food Smarts workshop. This is the third workshop of our series. So I'm kind of sad that it's ending, but Tina and I are in discussion of hosting more classes. So hopefully I'll be back or someone from Leah's Pantry will be back. But today's class is from 1 to 2. Hopefully you can stay because I do have some important announcements around vouchers. Before I begin every class, I do like to check everyone can hear me. So let me know if you can hear me in the chat box. Give me a little thumbs up. Let us know if you have any issues, but I don't see anyone complaining. So it sounds like everyone can hear me and everyone can see my video and my slides. Okay, great. I see some head nods. Wonderful. Thank you. And just a reminder, please mute your mic if you have some noise happening in your home or wherever you are. And you can also unmute as well if you want to speak up. This class is not a lecture. I do want to hear from you all. If you have some tips to share, perspectives to share, or some stories to share as well. You can also use the raise your hand feature to speak up. And show your video only if you wish, but it's okay if you don't want to. I do like to see everyone's beautiful smiling faces. I think everyone's an expert on Zoom by now. We've been on Zoom for a while, so I'll skip this, but let me or Bruce or Tina know if you have any issues. All right. So as I mentioned, this is the last workshop. We talked a lot about reducing food waste the past 2 community days. So today's workshop, we're going to focus on food storage and composting. I think this actually pairs very well with this morning's event. I don't know if anyone attended the reduce, recycle, reuse. I don't remember the exact title, but it's very aligned with what we're going to talk about today. And as always, we have a recipe demonstration and everyone earns $6 vouchers if you live in San Mateo County. And I'll talk a little bit more about those at the end of class. So here's today's agenda. And we're going to do some introductions and then go into food storage and then composting, as well as some packaging tips, and then the recipe demo. And like I said, I'll talk about those vouchers and some time for closing and Q&A, but you're welcome to ask questions throughout class. All right, is anyone new to my class? Anyone new to these Food Smart workshops? I see some new names. So welcome if you are new and welcome back if you're returning to my workshop. So a little bit about me. My name is Anna and I'm a registered dietitian. So that means I'm a licensed health nutrition professional. I'm not just someone who has an opinion about food and nutrition. I'm from San Francisco and I earned my nutrition degree from UC Davis and my master's from New York City. And I love to meet new people and I love to teach workshops. This is my favorite part of my work and I love to learn from you all. So I look forward to learning from you all today. So a little icebreaker question before we go in to the workshop content. If maybe we can use the chat box for this because there's quite a lot of people here today. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I hear a bit of echo. Okay, great. Thanks for whoever fixed that. So for my icebreaker question, since we're talking about food storage today, please share your preferred name and what types of foods do you store on the top of your fridge? So think about your refrigerator. Hopefully you all have a refrigerator. And what are some foods you typically store on the top shelf? So for me right now, it's like strawberries. I have some leftover vegetables. I think that's all I can remember right now. I think I have some yogurt maybe that I made. But please share, what are some typical foods? Ooh, Tina puts eggs. Great. Yolanda, milk, water, drinks. Tina also puts yogurt. Great. Anyone else? Any other foods you can think of? Kind of hard to think about what you store there if you don't think about it quite often. You You could cheat and go into your kitchen right now to look at your top shelf if you don't remember. Milk, iced tea, very nice, Bev. That sounds really good right now. It's getting warmer, so iced tea sounds really good. Or milk iced tea, milk tea. Ooh, guacamole, very nice, Tony. That also sounds very good. We should all get together and have a potluck. All right. So if you didn't have a chance to share, that's okay. You're welcome to keep chatting in the chat box. I'll check frequently, but we'll move on because an hour goes by really quick. So let's talk about food storage. So the reason why we're talking about food storage is this, part of food waste and why food waste happens is one big reason is we don't store foods properly and we let things go bad or forgotten. And this is typically what happens when I have citrus fruits. This has been happening to my big box of lemons lately, so I think I need to figure out a better way to store my lemons. So that is the reason why we're talking about food storage. Proper food storage can help prevent some of the food waste that happens when we don't store foods properly. So let's go into an activity. So let's pretend we're all in my kitchen. I have a little refrigerator, countertop, some cabinets, right? So let's say I have these 3 foods. So I have a bottle of cooking oil, I have a stick of butter, and I have some potatoes. So where should I store? Let's start with the olive oil or whatever cooking oil you have. Where should I store that? Best place to store that?
Cupboard.
Cupboard. All right. How about the stick of butter?
Refrigerator.
Refrigerator. Okay, good. I like that answer. And lastly, potatoes.
In the cupboard.
Cupboard.
In the
Pantry.
cupboard.
In a paper
Pantry.
bag.
In a paper bag. Oh, I love the details. Anything else? In a cupboard, in a paper bag. Oh, Tina says garage. All right. So let's talk about the olive oil first, or whatever cooking oil. So best to put any oils in a cabinet. I would not put it on the countertop, so maybe ignore that text. But things like oils can go rancid or spoil if it's exposed to sunlight. Most foods should stay in a dark, cool place. No foods last longer if it's exposed to sun. So keep foods like this out of the sun. That also goes for any other dry goods like beans, grains, cereals, and also keep those in an airtight container. When foods are exposed to sunlight and also air, it can also cause foods to spoil. So make sure you tightly seal all your oils, tightly seal anything that needs to go back into the cupboard. So very key thing. All right, next we will have the potatoes. So I'm glad you all keep it in the cupboard. I do see potatoes being stored in the refrigerators sometimes, but potatoes and other certain vegetables and fruits actually store better outside the refrigerator. Most produce lasts longer in the refrigerator, but foods like potatoes are an exception and taste a lot better when they're stored outside the refrigerator. So I'm happy to hear most of you are storing it outside the refrigerator.
Why are potatoes an exception?
Oh, so potatoes, when you store potatoes in the refrigerator, it converts, this is a little sciencey, so forgive me if it's too sciencey, but it converts some of the starch. So these are long chains of sugars found in potatoes, and it converts it to starch. So it's essentially breaking down. So when you cook it, it actually causes an unpleasantly sweet flavor, and it turns a lot more brown when you cook it. So it's best for taste and quality if you store it outside the refrigerator. Some vegetables like potatoes store best because outside the refrigerator, because the refrigerator is really cold and not a lot of vegetables, or sorry, a few vegetables don't store very well under cold conditions. So things like garlic and onions, those also store best outside the refrigerator. Things like hard squashes, bananas, tomatoes, avocados. unless they're ripe. Then I would put my tomatoes and avocados in the refrigerator. Great question. All right, next is the refrigerator, and I'm glad you all put your stick of butter in the refrigerator. I know some people leave it out, and it's okay to leave it out, but I would not leave it out for more than 2 hours. That increases the risk of foodborne illness and makes us sick. So make sure you put it back in the fridge after you use it, and on hotter days, over like 90 degrees Fahrenheit, I would actually store it within an hour. All right, lots of people trickling in. Welcome if you're just joining. We're just going over food storage right now. So other foods that go in the refrigerator, I think you all are pretty bright and know, but things like meats, chicken, fish, any leftover cooked foods, anything that's been open, most produce, and any cut fruit or vegetables. All right. And I do want to spend a little time talking about certain vegetables like delicate spring greens or asparagus and mushrooms. Those require a bit of special care. So if you remember from my first class, I talked about a special tip on storing herbs. So what happens to fresh herbs when we don't use them within a few days?
Yuck.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Yuck. It just goes slimy. It gets yellow. You waste a bunch. So, my favorite way to store herbs, delicate herbs like parsley or cilantro, is to store it like a bouquet of flowers, right? You put it in a little vase of water. For herbs, I would put it in a jar of water and then store it in the fridge. I also find it works best when you put like a zip top bag over it. This protects the herb leaves from wilting because it's very cold. So it does cause the herb leaves to kind of wilt if you don't cover it. Another way to store your herbs is also to wrap it around a damp towel. Some of my coworkers like this tip, so do what works best for you. I tend to like the jar method because I can see the herbs. I would probably forget that I put herbs in a damp towel if I did that. Okay, same, very similar situation with things like lettuce or any delicate salad greens. They also get kind of slimy and yuck if you don't use them within a few days or don't store them properly. So one way to store this a little bit better is to wrap it around a dry towel, or you can also store in a paper bag. This helps reduce some of the moisture. So that's another reason why foods goes bad, is if a lot of moisture collects. That tends to cause foods like mushrooms and lettuce to go kind of slimy and spoil. These foods are also are already rich in water. So storing it in a paper bag or wrapping around a dry towel can help reduce some of that moisture. Does anyone do these tips already? No one's chiming in, so maybe this is all new for you. So this is great. Hopefully this inspires you to change some of your storage habits. I've definitely changed some of mine. Little things can go a long way. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the refrigerator. So I think most of us know what goes in the refrigerator, but it becomes a little tricky depending on what part of the refrigerator we're talking about. So let's say my refrigerator has a top shelf, right? Some middle shelves, a bottom shelf, some crisper drawers, and a door. So let's pretend I have these 5 different foods and I need your help on where to store them. So let's say I have cut watermelon. Where should I store that? You can chime in the chat box or unmute.
Crisper drawer.
Crisper drawer, all right. How about my carton of eggs? Where should I put my carton of eggs?
Middle shelf.
Oh,
Middle shelf, okay. And steak. Ideally, your steak would be wrapped. Don't ever store your meats like this.
Bottom shelf.
Bottom shelf. All right. And a carrot. Where should I store my carrot?
Crisper.
In the
Crisper. I think I heard someone else chiming in. Yeah, okay. Crisper. And then lastly, a carton of milk. Where should I store that?
Top shelf.
Top shelf. Okay. Anyone else? Everyone agrees? Everyone's thinking. All right, let's reveal the answers. Middle. Okay, I like different answers. So let's see. Cut watermelon. I would put that on the top shelf. This also could work in the middle shelf too. Let's see. Carton of egg. I would also try to fit that in my middle shelf. The carton of eggs, I would put that on the bottom shelf. Same with the meat. And the crisper drawer, or sorry, the carrot, I would put in the crisper drawer. And yes, Tony, great question. Why are these foods stored this way? And this all has to do with temperature distribution. So the temperature of your refrigerator should be 40 degrees Fahrenheit or under. But it's actually quite different depending on what part of the refrigerator we're talking about. So let's start with the top and middle shelves. Those tops and middle shelves are moderately cold, and they're best to put foods that are ready to eat, maybe some leftovers you want to get rid of, fresh herbs, anything besides raw meat, chicken or eggs or fish. Those store best on the bottom shelf. One, for food safety reasons. The story I like to tell with this is my college roommate was storing her raw chicken on the top shelf. I think something knocked it over, but blood got everywhere and we had to waste a lot of food that day. So one, for food safety reasons, you want to separate your raw foods from your ready to eat foods. And another reason is it's the coldest at the bottom shelf for most refrigerators. Some refrigerators that have the freezer on the top, that top shelf could be the coldest, but as a best practice to separate your raw foods from your ready to eat foods, I do still like to put my raw meats on the bottom shelf. The crisper drawers, those are best for produce. If you have two drawers and have some humidity settings, you can set up one for fruits, and those fruits store best for low humidity, and another drawer for vegetables, and they store best for high humidity. And then we have the door, and the door is actually the warmest part of the refrigerator. If you think about how many times you open the fridge today, and how many times maybe your housemate opened the refrigerator, or your spouse or your family, it's a lot of times. So every time you're opening the refrigerator, you're letting warm air in. So not the best place for things that go bad or are perishable. So things like eggs, butter, milk, they don't store very well at the door. I know they fit very nicely there, but the door is actually the best place for things like water, juices, ketchup, mustard, things like that. Anyone have any questions around this? All right.
Just one. I got one.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of tend to put my meat and the eggs higher, not like on the middle shelf, not the bottom shelf, because my husband's tall, and otherwise I'm afraid he won't find them.
Yeah, that's a very valid reason, Beverly. I would probably do that too if I had a husband who couldn't see for the bottom shelf.
Or post-it note saying, "Look down there." Okay.
Yeah. These are just guidelines, Beverly. So I think you bring up a great question. I'm not saying everyone has to store their foods this way. These are just some general food safety guidelines around how you can store your foods better. But if you find that works better for your husband and your family, maybe that's the best, raw meat shelf for you. That's perfectly fine. All right. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, let's move on. So part of your refrigerator is also the freezer. Hopefully you're all using your freezer. I think it's a great tool that some of my friends don't utilize, especially if you buy foods in bulk. So a lot of my friends like to shop at Costco, and things at Costco come in a lot of serving sizes and packages. So things like sliced breads or sliced cheeses, those can be frozen. Almost any food can be frozen. Maybe some foods I would not freeze are things like lettuce
Mhm.
or things that are very watery. But most foods can be frozen. And it's such a great way to reduce food waste. It's like the easiest way, I think, when you have leftover soup or any leftover rice, whatever can be frozen. But a few tips before you freeze anything. I would think about how it would defrost. How long is this going to defrost? If you have a big batch of soup or a big batch of leftover rice, you might not want to freeze it in a big bag or a big container because it's going to take a while to defrost. So freeze in smaller portions. Think about how you want to defrost it. Um, and also keep it in an airtight bag or a container to prevent freezer burn, and make room for liquids. So when you freeze things like soup, the liquids expand. So I've made the mistake a few times when I freeze soup. I fill it all the way to the top of like my jar, and it breaks once it's frozen. So make sure you leave about an inch of room. And a few other tips: label your food. It kind of looks a little different when you freeze foods, and you might forget what you froze a few weeks ago or months ago. So label your food like, this was my chicken soup from June 23rd, so you know how fresh it is, and the year, of course. And always defrost safely. If you are freezing raw meats, chicken, never, ever, ever defrost on the countertop. That increases the risk of multiplying all the bacteria from the raw foods. So make sure you defrost safely. I always like to defrost foods overnight in the refrigerator. All right. Any questions around this? Pretty simple tips. And another tip with food storage is also cleaning. I know we've all been doing maybe some cleaning this past year, but please clean your fridge regularly. Your fridge can also collect a lot of bacteria, so make sure you clean any spills or debris regularly or as needed. Just because it's cold in there doesn't mean things can grow, and this could affect any new groceries you might be putting into it. Okay, so I know we talked a lot about how to reduce food waste the past 3 weeks now. And I know it's hard to save all the food. Some foods will spoil. So I'm not making anyone eat moldy foods or rotten apples. Sometimes we have to waste some food. So I wanted to talk a little bit about composting today. But before we go into that, a trivia question. How many pounds of food do we throw away per person every year? Does anyone remember from the first class we had?
Mm.
Lots.
Like 2 months ago, I know, so it's hard to remember.
F.
How many
400
pounds?
pounds.
Ooh, who said that?
Yolanda.
I did.
Yolanda. Points for Yolanda. You are on point, Yolanda. It is 400 pounds per person every year. That's almost a pound a day, or a little over a pound a day. And the sad part is most of the food that we waste goes in the landfills. And that's about 80 billion pounds of food every year. Think about all the years you've been on Earth. And if you have trouble picturing what 80 billion pounds of food looks like, one thing that can help is this visual. So if you ever visited the Statue of Liberty, it's a big, big statue. That's about the size or the weight of 450,000 Statue of Liberties. So that's a
Wow.
lot of food being wasted. So one way is to help reduce it, at home. But if you do end up throwing it away, one way is to compost it. So I'm going to skip this slide a little bit. So does anyone recycle or compost at home already? Or maybe you have access to an outdoor space where you can build a garden or have a little gardening plot wherever you live. I know some housings can maybe rent you a little plot or maybe participate in a local compost pickup anywhere. Anyone recycle or compost? It's okay if you don't. I know it's not available to everyone, so don't mean to make anyone feel bad. Composting is still needs some time to grow in other places. So I live in San Francisco, and we do have composting being picked up along with recycling and trash. Oh, Bev, do you recycle or compost? Oh,
Yes.
wonderful.
It
Anyone
goes
else?
with the garden bin.
It goes with the garden bin. Who's
Garbage.
Oh,
No, not
garbage.
garbage. Garden with
Garden.
the green bin.
Oh, yeah. Who said that? Was that Yolanda?
Inam.
Anna or Annam. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome, Annam. That's really great. You have a garden bin?
Yes, that goes. They pick it up for the waste from the garden.
Waste from the garden. Oh, it's probably a compost bin, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can put things from gardening in there as well. That's great that
Yes.
some of you are already gardening, or sorry, composting, recycling. If you don't, that's okay. I could talk a little bit about some options around you. So let's first talk about what compost is. So what is compost? How would you define compost? I kind of revealed the answers. Hopefully you didn't read it yet. What is
Green
compost?
waste.
What was that, Yolanda?
Green waste.
Green waste. Yeah, that's
Plant-based waste.
plant-based waste. Yeah, I like the way you framed that. So yes, it's organic waste. So all these greens and things you put in your compost bin or from your garden, that all turns into a very nutritious fertilizer. And how you can compost really depends on where you live. So in San Mateo County, there's a few programs around, but you'll have to do a bit of research. And I think residents can apply for compost bins if you don't have any. If you live in an apartment, it's a little trickier, but the programs really depend on where you are in San Mateo County or whatever county you're in. And also it depends on what space you have and equipment. So there's a lot of different types of bins. There's some worm bins that people have in their little apartment sometimes to help with composting. So many options. And this is one of my favorite ways to show what composting looks like. It's a very beautiful cycle that happens. So starting with food and organics. So we all buy food, right? We all eat food. And sometimes there's scraps that we have to throw away. So all these scraps get collected in the green bin, wherever you compost, and it gets taken into this processing plant where all these microbes start to eat those scraps and turn it into very nutritious soil that goes back into growing more food. And the quality and nutrition of our soil actually affects the nutrition of our food. So I think it's a really great cycle to grow more nutritious and tasty food for us, rather than rotting in the landfills. So what goes in the compost bin also depends on your county. So this is from the San Mateo County, and they collect food scraps, plants, and soiled papers. And they do not compost these items. So things like recyclables, should be recycled. Styrofoam, animal waste, diapers, plastic bags, those don't belong in the compost bin. So be careful about what you put in your compost.
Could
I'm
Oh, yes.
sorry, could you define more what you mean by soiled paper?
Yeah, that's a great question. Who asked that question? Who was that?
That was Jane.
Jane, great question. So soiled paper, so those are things like used napkins that are made, paper napkins, maybe a soiled egg carton, a soiled paper plate, anything made from paper like a used pizza box, things like that. So it has to
So
be made of. Mhm.
if it's soiled, well, let's just say it's a brown paper bag, has some grease stains on it. So it goes into compost. But
Correct.
if it's a brown paper bag with no
No grease.
yeah, then
Yeah.
it would go into recycling.
Correct. Yeah, you got the right idea. So if it's clean, it's best to put in the recycle bin. But if it's used and kind of dirty, has some grease or food stains on it, you can put it in the compost. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Great question. All right. Let's go back a few, go forward a few. And I want to talk about recycling. So what
Excuse me,
goes in the
Anna?
recycling? Yes.
Excuse me. I put a question on the chat.
Oh, did you? Okay,
Yeah,
sorry. I
that's
didn't
all
see it.
right. I
Let's see.
just was curious to know wheat, peanuts, and pumpkin seed shells, poly seed shells. I never knew if those are recyclable the same as any other plant waste.
Oh, yes, those are highly recyclable. Yes.
Okay, great.
Anything that was most food scraps can go in the compost bin. So excellent question. Yeah, you can compost.
And how about onion skins? The skin of the yellow onion. Okay,
yeah,
great.
that can go in the compost too. Or you can save that to make a vegetable stock. Those
The
add
skin?
a ton of flavor.
The
yeah,
skin? The
yeah,
brown skin.
yeah. I don't know if you joined my first class, Julie, but you can save food scraps in a little freezer bag. So what I do is I put a little zip top bag in my freezer. I collect skins of onions, garlic, tops of carrots, sweet vegetables. And then once I have enough, like a bag full, you put in a big pot of water, you let it come to a boil, and then let it simmer for about 45 to an hour, depending on how much you have. And you can strain that and make your own vegetable stock. Super flavorful onion skins. And then, once you strain it and use it up, you can compost it.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Where are
All
we
right.
supposed to compost gum?
Oh, gum is not compostable, unfortunately.
Bruce,
I'm
you're
just,
pulling your leg. Bruce is
I'm
pulling your
asking.
leg.
That's a great question, Bruce. Yeah, so we can't digest gum. So that
Right. So where are you supposed to put it? Under the table?
garbage. Nope.
Under
okay.
the table.
Under the table. I mean, I wouldn't put it under my own table, but if you're into that, that's your own personal choice.
I just wondered. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good question. Never been asked that before. All right, back to recyclables. Great questions, everyone. So things that are recyclable, I think most of you know if you recycle already, are things made of paper, plastic, glass, aluminum. What else? I think that's mostly it. And it has to be, or for most counties, they do recommend it to be clean. If it's dirty, it does contaminate other recyclables, so they most likely end up throwing it away if it's dirty.
Excuse me, that can is not recyclable, is it?
Cans,
The can. You see there's a can on that picture?
tin cans. Oh, those are
Yes.
recyclable.
Oh, I thought they had to have that little emblem on the bottom saying they're recyclable.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question, Julie. So, or a good point. Those are on plastics. So that little
Right.
triangle thing, those are on plastics.
Right.
Those are not on tin.
Right.
Those are only found on plastics. Yeah.
No, I knew that, but I didn't know those kind of tins were recyclable. I've been throwing them away. Uh-oh.
Don't do that.
Oh, well, now you know.
Now I know. I learned something.
Yay, good. All right. Small changes here. We're all about small little changes. Great. Well, now you can recycle them. Just make sure you rinse out the whatever was remaining in there. All right. Last is the waste bin. And anything that doesn't go in recycling and compost most likely it goes in the waste bin. So things like gum, things like flimsy plastics like saran wrap, zip top bags, and hygiene products, those normally go in the waste bin. So let's do an activity. Now that you know a little bit more about what goes in each bin, I'm going to present a waste item, and you're going to tell me where you think it belongs. So let's say I have a used coffee cup.
Compost.
Compost. Very nice, Bev.
There you
Now,
go.
are we talking about paper or we're talking about ceramic?
Oh, great question. It's not ceramic. Julie.
Right, I figured you meant paper. If you're
Yeah.
gonna put it in compost.
Yeah, I would keep it. I would keep it if it's a ceramic cup. But yes, this is a paper cup you got from like a local cafe. Welcome if you just joined. We're just playing an activity right now on where you think these waste foods go or waste items go. All right, I have a little coffee creamer. Coffee creamer. Hopefully you've seen one of these. They're made of
Oh.
like a little plastic, a little wrapper. Where do you think it goes?
Trash.
Bev says trash. Anyone agree or disagree?
Does it have that thing on the bottom, that little sign on the bottom? That little, like plastic recycled sign?
Triangle.
Probably doesn't.
Probably doesn't. Yeah, good question,
Okay.
Julie. So yes, Bev was right. It's most likely in the trash. Things like little coffee creamers, they're not made of strong plastic. The stronger the plastic, the more likely it's recyclable. But flimsy plastic is usually not very recyclable. So I think it goes in the trash. All right, let's say I have a coffee filter with some coffee.
Compost.
Compost, very
Nice.
nice.
Yeah.
If you have a garden, I think this is really good for your garden. I think it's very rich in nitrogen. So
I put them
compost.
directly on my plants.
You put them directly in your plants. Who was that?
Me, Yolanda.
Yolanda, very nice. Sorry, there's lots of people going in this room. It's hard to see who's speaking up. That's really great, Yolanda. Does it make your plants grow better or?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What kind of plants do you have?
Rhododendrons and azaleas, they like it. They like the, I guess, the acidity of the grounds.
Very nice. Oh, wonderful. All right, great. Strong testimonial from Yolanda. All right, we have a used tea bag. Where does that go?
Compost.
Compost. Very nice. I would be a bit careful with tea bags. Sometimes the tags come with a bit of plastic, so you might have to remove that.
Excuse me, but I heard that you can do the tea bags, including the staple in there in compost. That's what somebody told me. The
Someone told you
staple on
that?
the tea bag.
Oh,
Somebody
okay.
told me that.
I always wondered about that. I always remove that part because I don't think that's compostable.
I used to remove it, but somebody told me that. But you're right.
Oh.
It shouldn't. You would think the metal wouldn't break down.
I don't think so. It would take a lot of the process of composting and breaking down metal is a little different. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah, I think I'd take the staple off.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who it was later.
Okay. Oh, all right. Soy milk, carton of soy milk. Where's that
Recycle.
Recycle. Anyone else agree? Disagree?
I say
You have
recycle.
to rinse it.
So I would put this in the trash.
Oh,
So,
trash.
yeah, so these cartons, if you ever buy soy milk or any of the milks from the dry goods section, this is a
Mhm.
very special packaging that helps the food last longer. But normally that carton is lined with a lot of plastic. So it's not recyclable plastic too. So that ends up in the trash, unfortunately, unless it says it's recyclable. But most of those go in the trash, unfortunately. All right, pizza box, used up pizza box.
Compost.
I helped you out with this one a little bit. Let's see. I'm gonna skip a few. You guys seem to know your stuff. But let's go to this one. Plastic utensils.
Trash.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone has ordered takeout in the past year. I definitely have, and I get very annoyed when they pack me some plastic utensils. So if you do this, please or I encourage you to ask them not to pack you any utensils and use your own. I think food tastes better when you use real utensils. Okay, let's see. We have orange peel, an orange peel.
Compost.
Compost.
Compost,
But the
very
label
nice.
is
Except the sticker.
Except the sticker, very good. So that sticker is not recyclable. I don't know why we have these stickers. They're very annoying to peel off and put in the trash, but they're not compostable. So make sure you peel it off. All right, I think everyone knows where these go. Gloves,
Trash.
masks,
Yeah.
trash. Yeah,
Jeez.
hopefully you all hopefully you all invested in a reusable mask this past year. And there's really no reason to wear gloves all the time. It's actually better to wash your hands more often. All right, last item. We got a glass jar from my dill pickles.
recycle.
Recycle, very
Yeah,
nice.
with things recycle.
Yeah, or you can reuse this, right? Part of the price of food also covers the packaging. So if I'm buying an expensive jar of dill pickles, I'm paying for that glass jar, so I'm keeping it if it's a nice jar. And so part of food waste or waste that comes from food. Wait, what am I trying to say? Sorry. So also that the waste that comes from food has to do with the packaging. Wait, I didn't frame that right. Okay. Scratch what I said. A lot of packaging also is wasteful when we buy food. That's what I'm trying to say. So I recommend saving used jars when you're buying food. Also maybe buying in bulk to reduce some of the packaging waste. So some bulk bins are returning in grocery stores. I went to Whole Foods recently and they started opening up their bulk bins. Has anyone else visited any grocery stores that opened up their bulk bins?
Sprouts, I go to Sprouts, but Sprouts has not opened their bin again, but they do package in bulk different the things that used to be in the bins.
Yeah, I've noticed that too with some grocery stores. They modified their bulks bins and just pre-packaged it for you. So that's a great way to reduce some of your waste, or bringing your own bags if the grocery store allows it. And also choosing paper over plastic too. That's a great way to help reduce some of the packaging waste. A lot of the plastic that we put in our recycle bin is actually not recycled. Only 9% of the plastics that we put in the recycle bin get recycled and turned back into new plastic. So plastic is not very recyclable compared to paper and glass, things like that. So try to choose paper when you can, or maybe glass when you can. I know it could be expensive sometimes. So do your best, So here are some examples of how I see so much packaging waste that comes with our food. So this is one of my pet peeves. Hopefully I never ever see you all with this in your grocery cart. A lot of plastic that covers certain produce. I see this at Costco sometimes. They package their apples in all this plastic. Very, very wasteful. Really no need to package your fruit like this. So I normally like to buy fruits and vegetables that are loosely stored. Other ways to reduce some of your waste and have tastier food, I might add, is trying to do it yourself. Make it from scratch at home, and it could also be cheaper. So compared to buying cooked canned beans, it's actually much cheaper to prepare your own cooked beans from buying it dry. And I think it also tastes better too. Has a kind of metallic taste when you buy canned foods. Another thing that you can make at your home with things you might already have in your cabinet are dressings. Lots of waste comes from bottled dressings. Usually it's a plastic bottle, comes with wrapping, but the formula for dressings is actually pretty simple. All you need is oil. I'm assuming most of you have oil at home. You need a vinegar, or another type of acid. So maybe a juice from an orange or a lime or lemon, and some spices, some fresh herbs to flavor it. All you have to do is shake it up a little bit and it lasts for about a week or so. And it tastes a lot better than bottle dressing, I think. And it can also be healthier too. A lot of bottle dressings can have a lot of added sodium and sugars. So it's a lot fresher and tastier when you make it on your own. So here's another example of another food that comes with a lot of packaging waste. So what gets thrown out when you buy, sliced bread? What are some things you have to throw away?
Yeah.
A little tab.
The little
Mhm.
tab, yeah, that little
Mhm.
plastic tab. What else? It's
The
also
wrapper itself.
the wrapper itself.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Itself,
very
yeah.
good. Yeah, I was about to say it's also on the slide here if you need some help. So the plastic bag usually has another plastic inner wrap in it. Some people throw away the bread, the ends of the bread because they don't like it. I personally love that part.
I have a,
Um,
I have a save. I got a
you-
friend that has chickens, and she said they love bread.
oh, do
So
they?
when we get to the end of the loaf, I stick in the freezer until I'm going to see her, and they love it. And the little plastic gizmo from the bread, you can use those to put at the end of a roll of masking tape or something to find the end.
Mm.
And put it at the end of
I'll show
what was
you.
that, Bev? I really love that tip of, finding a friend with chickens that will take your bread. That's a great way to recycle some of
But see, this
the
is the
bread.
tape. That way, I can find the end of the tape.
Oh,
Isn't it?
tape, you said. I couldn't quite hear you. That's really
Isn't that cute?
resourceful.
Yeah.
I love that. I get very annoyed with tape. So
Yeah.
that's a great way to reuse
Don't we
that.
all?
That's great. I love that tip. I'm keeping that for my own.
You betcha.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
Um, other ways to reduce some of the
Hi.
packaging waste. Oh, sorry. Someone want to share something? Oh, guess not. Other ways to reduce the packaging waste is to buy bread that doesn't come in plastic. So there's certain breads that come in a paper bag. They're normally from local bakeries, and to me, they taste a lot fresher and better too compared to sliced breads. They do have a shorter shelf life since they don't have preservatives. So just make sure you plan accordingly. Freeze half, however you want to heat it up throughout the week. All right. Another food, I will skip a few slides, is a jar of jam. So what gets thrown out when you buy a jar of jam?
Oh, okay. A jar. Okay.
Oh, I think someone's on the phone.
You got anything else you're trying to get rid of? I know you're afraid when they're gone.
Hey, Bruce or Tina, can you help me mute whoever's on the phone?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to mute everybody.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. All right. So if you're trying to talk, sorry, you're muted right now. But I will just go through this very quickly. So jars of jam or any types of jar normally comes with the plastic wrap, right? The jar and lid that normally gets recycled or thrown out. So one way to reduce this waste is saving that jar to save as a storage container, or you can make your own jam. So right now we're in the early beginnings of summer, and fruits like berries are very sweet in abundance right now. So if you have extra, I highly recommend making your own jam. It's super easy. I do have a recipe that I can share with you all. Unfortunately, I don't have a recipe video, but you basically have to just boil down the berries and add a bit of sugar and boil it for about 20 minutes or so, let it reduce, and that could last up to a week or so. So very delicious berry jam. So time for our cooking demonstration today. So we have 3 recipes, and we have an orange jicama carrot salad and 2 recipes that can help you reduce packaging waste and also food waste. So salsa Instead of buying jarred salsa, maybe you can make your own. And classic balsamic vinaigrette. So anyone have any requests on what to see?
I like the orange jicama carrot salad.
Orange jicama carrot salad. All right. Thank you for voting. Let's see how I can. Oh, that's the recipe. There we go. Okay. I'm going to zoom out here. All right. Thank you for your patience.
Hello everyone, my name is Angela and I'm a dietetic intern with Leah's Pantry. Today we will be cooking carrot, jicama, and orange salad. We can reduce food waste by keeping the peel on root vegetables such as carrots. This recipe can be found on eatfresh.org. Now let's get in the kitchen and start cooking.
The recipe says peel and grate your carrots, but I would highly recommend keeping the peel on your carrots. Saves time and also saves some of the fiber from the skin. Very refreshing salad. Has anyone had jicama before? Jicama?
Yes,
Oh, Amanda has. Oh, Julie. Oh, very nice. How have
Mhm.
you enjoyed jicama?
It's very good. It's very refreshing, very crisp, juicy.
Yeah, it tastes almost like a cross between a pear and a potato. It looks like a giant potato too. It's not
It's good on
sold
hummus.
everywhere.
It's good.
Um, oh, sorry. Who is speaking?
Tony, it's good with hummus as a dip.
Ooh, actually, I haven't tried that with hummus, Tony. I normally use carrots or whatever I have. I've never thought to use carrot. Sorry, jicama sticks. That's
Maybe
nice.
the little tiny sweet peppers also. You can just take them for a bite. They're good.
Yeah, I've done it with little sweet peppers, but a great idea. I never thought to use jicama as a little dipper. Very fun. Okay. I can send links to the salsa and classic balsamic vinaigrette if anyone is interested in watching later. But I'm sorry, we have a little or not enough time to watch the rest of the videos. So time for our closing. I want to spend a little time talking about or reflecting on the past 3 classes. If you've been with me for the past 3 community days, what is one thing you learned from this past workshop or the past few workshops that you will try this week or have been trying?
Tin cans that I can recycle those.
Excellent. Yeah, such a great small thing that you can walk away from this class. I love that, Julie. Anyone
I'm
else?
going to buy a jicama and grate it and, peel it and grate it and do something with it.
Yeah, it's very sweet. I think you'll enjoy it. Who was that?
Yeah. And I think they have them at Smart and Final.
Bev. Oh yeah. Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Smart and Final?
Yeah.
Ooh, I do
Mhm.
have a Smart and Final by me. I have to see if ours have it.
Google
Like
it.
yeah, it's yeah. Like I said, it's not sold everywhere, so it's always fun to find out where I can find jicama.
Right.
Anyone else? Maybe you'll reorganize your fridge today,
Mhm.
possibly move things around. maybe you'll research on some composting programs, or maybe you've been using the food code extensions chart that I talked about last workshop, those expiration dates, right? Maybe thinking, checking that chart before you throw away the food past the date. All right. So let's talk about those vouchers. So thank you all for being here today. And if you've joined me for the past 3 workshops, you earn up to $18 in vouchers. So you earn $6 every workshop. And I will be mailing these after today. So I think Tina or Bruce or both of them will be sending out a link to this post survey. I can also paste it in the chat if you want to get a head start. It's 2 pages worth and it looks like this. It's a post workshop survey. It comes in 3 languages, so I'm sorry for all the text. But make sure you fill out both pages and submit. The second page will ask you for your mailing information. So make sure you fill it out correctly so I mail it to the right person. And along with the vouchers, I'll be also mailing you voucher guides. So these are little booklets that list all the farmers markets in San Mateo County that accepts these vouchers, but you can also use them in other Bay Area counties. And the vouchers never expire. They're only good for buying fruits and vegetables. And I would also check the farmers market to make sure it's opened, and also if the location has changed. Some farmers markets have moved to bigger locations to allow for physical distancing. So just double check before you go to the farmers market. And the great thing about farmers markets are most of the fruits and vegetables are not in a bunch of plastic. It's lots of or less packaging and waste. And my little fun tip with saving money too at the farmers market is shopping near the end of the market hours. Farmers don't want to bring home their produce because it's going to go bad. They want to sell everything they can. So that's a great way to get some discounts. Some farmers are really kind and actually give some of their produce away. You do get less options because all the fresher options may have been chosen that day, but it's just a little budget tip if you wanted to check that out. And that's the end of the show. So thank you so much, Tina, Bruce, and everyone here. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you,
Thank
Anna.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, we'll talk
you.
soon.
Thank you.
I have a
Bye-bye,
question.
everyone.